There are a ton of stories in the Bible that have really brutal and gruesome details, but when we tell those stories in church, most times we either dumb it down or avoid those stories altogether. But if we told those stories, it would make Game of Thrones look like it was made for children. And I want to dive into the most brutal story that I have ever read in the Bible, the story of the Levite and his concubine. At this point in time, Israel had no king, practically no government, so everyone was doing what was right in their own eyes. Our story starts with a Levite who takes a woman to be his concubine, which is kind of like a wife, but not really. But she gets mad at him for unknown reasons and goes back to live with her father. After 4 months of her being gone, he finally goes to her father's house to get her back. Now, the concubine's father makes it clear that he doesn't want her to go back with this guy, because every morning when they get up and get ready to leave, he says, just stay till the afternoon. And then once it gets to afternoon, he goes, just stay overnight, you can leave in the morning. On the 5th day in the morning, he says, all right, I'm ready to go. And the father says, nah, just stay till the afternoon. So he does. And in the afternoon, he again says, just stay overnight. But he says, nope, we've been here too long, I'm going home and I'm taking my concubine with me. So they load up and they leave, but because they left so late in the day, they can't make it all the way back to his home. So after they travel about 10 miles, they stop to rest for the night in a town called Gibeah. As a farmer was coming home from his work in the fields, he offered to have them come stay at his house, and he gave them a warning. At all costs, do not stay in the town square overnight. And this is where things take a dark turn. As the men sit around drinking wine and enjoying themselves, there's suddenly a loud banging at the door. It's the men of the town, and they demand of the old man who lives there, bring out the man who's staying with you so that we can have sex with him. The old man stepped outside to talk to them. No, my brothers, don't do such an evil thing, for this man is a guest in my house, and such a thing would be shameful. Here, take my virgin daughter and this man's concubine. I will bring them out to you, and you can abuse them and do whatever you like, but don't do such a shameful thing to this man. But they wouldn't listen to him, so the Levite took hold of his concubine and pushed her out the door. The men of the town abused her all night, taking turns raping her until morning. Finally, at dawn, they let her go. At daybreak, the woman returned to the house where her husband was staying. She collapsed at the door of the house and lay there until it was light. This story has not even reached peak brutalness, but already it's really challenging to read, because these are two men who are responsible for two women, for protecting them and making sure that they're safe. This guy's offering up his daughter, and this other guy's offering up his concubine. They are supposed to be the protectors of these women, but because of the fact that we're in such a lawless time, they're just doing whatever seems right to them at the moment. And it gets worse, because apparently the Levite had no problem sleeping while his concubine is out getting raped. It says that when he got up to leave in the morning, after he's already packed his bags, he opens the door and finds his concubine laying at the doorstep. And he says to her, "Get up, it's time to go." How absolutely heartless can you be? But she didn't answer, and he realizes that she is dead. So he takes her body, puts it on his donkey, and continues the way home. When he gets there, he chops her body into 12 pieces and sends one to each tribe of Israel. When the tribes of Israel see this, they realize that something absolutely terrible has happened, and they're not going to stand for it. Every tribe sent warriors to gather in an act of unity that hasn't been seen since the conquest of the land. The Levite gets up in front of all the people of Israel and tells the story of what happened. Now, he conveniently leaves out some details about his own terrible actions, but the people are roused. They're angry at the men of the town of Gibeah, as they should be, and they declare, "None of us will return home, not even one of us. Instead, this is what we'll do to Gibeah. We will draw lots to decide who will attack it. 1/10 of the men from each tribe will be chosen to supply the warriors with food, and the rest of us will take revenge on Gibeah of Benjamin for this shameful thing they have done in Israel." So the 11 tribes all gather together, united, to go attack the town of Gibeah. And they send a message to the Benjaminites saying, "These guys at Gibeah have done a terrible thing. Give them up so that we can punish them for what they've done." But the men of Benjamin refuse. 26,000 warriors come from across the land of Benjamin, uniting with the 700 warriors that already lived at Gibeah. But they're still wildly outnumbered, as the other 11 tribes boast 400,000 warriors. So the men of Judah, the biggest tribe in all of Israel, went out to attack the town of Gibeah. But the men of Benjamin came out to defend the city and killed off 22,000 of the Israelites. And so they go out the next day and they attack the men of Benjamin again. And again, the men of Benjamin come out and defend the town of Gibeah. And another 18,000 Israelites are killed off by the men of Benjamin. The 26,700 men of Benjamin have now killed off 40,000 members of the tribes of Israel. And the men of Israel go and they weep for their losses and they say, God, should we go out against them again? And God said, yes, tomorrow I will hand them over to you. But this time the men of Israel get a little smarter. They set up an ambush. They hide men around the town of Gibeah and then send in what appears to be the main force to attack the front gates. When the men of Benjamin come out, they start killing the Israelites, and the Israelites turn tail and run. The men of Benjamin said, they're running away like they did the other days. Let's chase them down and kill them as they run. So the men of Benjamin all come out of the town and start chasing down the Israelites. Then the Israelites trigger the ambush, they kill everyone in the town, and they set fire to the buildings. When the Benjaminites turn around and see smoke rising up from the town of Gibeah, they realized what's happened. The men who ambushed the town come out from the town, and the men who were running turn around to attack the Benjaminites, and they catch them from both sides. As the Benjaminites flee the battle, the Israelites chase them down from place to place. As the warriors of Benjamin ran to hide in the hills, the men of Israel went from town to town throughout the entire tribe of Benjamin, and killed every single person and animal they found, and burned every town to the ground. When they were finished, knowing that some of the men of Benjamin had survived, they all made a vow together, a pact, that they wouldn't let any of their daughters marry any man from Benjamin. Shortly after, they realized that they just created a huge problem. They just deleted a tribe of Israel. One of God's chosen tribes is just gone. The men of Israel aren't supposed to marry women from outside of their nation, but every man from within the nation just promised that they wouldn't allow their daughters to marry the men of Benjamin. So what are they going to do? Either they have to take accountability for their mistake, or they can find a way around it and make somebody else pay the price. They gather all the men there and they say, is there any town in Israel that didn't send any men to fight with us? And they found that the town of Jabesh-Gilead hadn't sent any warriors to fight with them. So they send 12,000 elite soldiers to the town of Jabesh-Gilead. And when they get there, they slaughter every man and every woman who's not a virgin. They take the virgins and they give them to the men of Benjamin as wives. This is absolutely insane, completely immoral. But again, we're living in a time where the law isn't given any value and everybody's just doing right by what seems like it's right to them at the moment. Now, a problem occurs because there was only 400 virgins from the town of Jabesh-Gilead and there were 600 men of Benjamin. So now we have 200 men without wives. This awful solution doesn't even completely solve the problem that they had. So the men of Israel come up with a second god-awful solution. There was a town called Shiloh that would have a festival once a year, where they would have their women go out and dance by themselves by the vineyard. And they said to the men of Benjamin without wives, go hide in that vineyard, and when the women come out to dance, rush out and kidnap whichever one, and you can take her as your wife. And we, the men of Israel, will go out to the fathers of these girls that you just kidnapped as your wives and explain to them that they haven't broken their vow because they didn't give their daughters to you, and we'll ask them to be sympathetic because we need the tribe of Benjamin. There is no hero of this story. There is no happy ending. This is actually the last story told in the book of Judges. The last verse in the book says, in those days Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. This is just an example of how bad things get when we totally set aside the law and do whatever we think is best for us. 65,000 warriors died in a civil war. You have all the women and children of Benjamin gone, their cities burned to the ground, and in all practicality, not much has changed. God is consulted in this story, but only by people that know that they're doing the righteous thing at the moment. As soon as they mess up, they want to try to fix it themselves without the help of God. I believe this to be the most brutal story in the Bible, but it's not the only interesting one. There's much more to come. Subscribe and look for more content if this kind of thing interests you. See you next time.